Welcome to the Glorious Both And podcast, where we dive into the shadows and the dangers of self-negating spirituality, in particular, non-dual spirituality, neo-advaita, and other forms of ego dissolution types of teachings. And we go through a lot of different people's experiences, falling into these shadows and dangers, and allow them to tell their stories and just explain, how they got out of it and where they've gone to now. And it tends to offer a lot of hope and inspiration to other people. So today I have a good friend, Joe, and Joe is someone that I've connected with a few years ago, and we really kind of bonded over not just having, a good kind of connection, just human connection, but discovering that we had both gone pretty hardcore down the non-dual self-negation path, and found the double-edged sword that was, and also had to kind of come to terms with the harmful ways that it impacted us, and kind of find our way out of it towards another pathway. And I know that you've gotten to a place that's a very much more humanistic sort of worldview and view of spirituality that includes embracing the self. But I really wanted to give you the chance to share your story, because I think that it's very inspiring and empowering and could help some people. And your story is unique, and that you kind of went from Scientology to the self-negating non-duality, and then emerging from that into what you, I hope, will share as what you've arrived at recently. So I think we had said that we would just kind of dive in and let it flow, and feel free to start, wherever you want. And maybe I will interject here and there if it feels natural to ask a question. But I want to hand it over to you.
Well, it's great to be here, and it's good to see you again. Yeah, this is kind of exciting. I didn't start at Scientology, quite obviously,
Okay.
but yeah, I definitely had a major impact on my life, and actually opening me up to other possibilities. So it's kind of interesting to me. I'm not sure everybody will feel that way, but I'll tell the story. We'll see where it goes, and you can ask any questions you'd like.
Okay.
Certainly, I don't have all the answers at this point, but at least I know I don't have all the questions. So, that's where I'm coming from. Anyway, I was raised a Catholic. I was very impressed by Catholicism. I went to a Catholic school till the fifth grade. At one time, my aspiration was to be a priest. I was very impressed with the version of Jesus's teachings as I received through the Catechism in the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I started to get a little older, even there, when I was in Catholic school, we had missed a couple of Sundays Mass quite frequently. That became the case. My dad wasn't into it. May have even missed an Easter, but I'm not sure about that. But the one thing I came away from Catholicism with was this vision of our soul as a milk bottle. And they showed these three milk bottles, and one milk bottle had beautiful white milk in it. And that's kind of where we were starting, right? And then the next milk bottle had all these black dots in it, which were, I think the term was venial sins.
Oh.
And that wasn't so bad, because there was still some hope at that milk bottle stage. Then there was the milk bottle that had either all black or a lot of black in it, solid. And that was the mortal sins. So somewhere between second grade and fifth grade, I realized I fucked up. I have a black milk bottle. So I wasn't going to make it. I was already doomed at whatever age that is. And it was like, there's no hope. I've already done all the bad things. So I thought at that age. So I had to sort of try to come to grips with that. And that was not comfortable. I was a fairly sensitive child. I think I had a sense of social ills from a very, very young age, which I think is kind of interesting. So I carried that into life, being concerned about people's interactions and being good to people and fairness and all of those things. So all of that contributed to my angst as well. Uh, as I got older, and I certainly left the church as a young adult, there was no possibility of religion, but I still hadn't rejected God. I eventually came to that stage somewhat reluctantly and realized, wow, now I'm a man without God. That was a bit of an existential crisis in itself, but that's where I was operating from. So I flopped around through the years. I got married, had children, had the jobs, was doing fairly well by American dream standards, but I wasn't a happy character. Just not typically my nature to be happy all the time. I had joys in life, but I would turn sour quite quickly.
Okay.
So I became somewhat of a seeker. And this guy I worked with at a restaurant introduced me to Scientology. And at that point, I really had nothing, no basis for life. I thought science will figure it out. It's all just chemicals and reactions. But that just wasn't comfortable. Anyway, so I went down to the Church of Scientology and they did their dance on me and got me into the beginning programs and you name it. But not to get into all the gory details of that, it ended up being the best thing I'd ever done at the time. They had a program called Life Repair. It was a couple $1,000s. I think I borrowed money to do it. It might have been a bit in desperation, but it literally blew the top of my head off when I completed that program. And I liken it to a psychedelic experience without drugs. And that was my first experience of that kind, except back in junior high, I actually had an out-of-body experience as a result of a fight I was involved in, and someone threw me in a canal.
Wow.
I was face down in the canal. I could see myself from outside of my body, looking at myself in the canal, and I said, I gotta get myself out of there, whatever the words were. Got back into the body and crawled out of the canal. So that was my first out-of-body experience. But this Scientology thing was such a revelation, such an enlightening moment of a sort. I thought I'd never come down. I have to be honest, probably wasn't a half hour later that the world started to shit all over my experience. Nobody could have where I was coming from. My wife, friends, nobody. And the high lasted probably a couple of months, but declining the whole time significantly. I just had a view of life that was so open, so broad, so all-inclusive. Nothing was fearful. It was incredible and full of possibility, but nobody could have it. Nobody could have it. So that created a series of ups and downs in Scientology. I went on to become a Dianetic auditor and take some other training in there, but ultimately, the church had a philosophy that if you were connected to a suppressive person, you had to detach from that person or detach from Scientology, basically, because you weren't going to make it. Well, I detached from Scientology. Okay, so I left. I didn't detach from my wife, who was my suppressive person. That was very revealing in itself. But now again, I'm out there alone, no God, no Scientology. Now what, right? I think the next thing I ran into somehow was A Course in Miracles. Okay, and I started to read that, and that kind of started to click for me. That resulted in me going to a Unity church, which was a new kind of Christianity, very light, not so dogmatic. And where that led me to was the representative of a guru came to do a talk at the church. And I started to now be introduced to this concept of self and higher self.
Okay.
That clicked for me. So I jumped on that. That led to, oh gosh, probably chronology is not my strong point, but that led to probably uh, maybe 9, 10 years of involvement with that guru and that organization. And that was a non-dual organization.
Okay.
Interestingly, that guru, whom I never loved, but I respected his word and I listened to every word he said. I loved other people there, but I never had that affection for him.
Okay.
Um, he hit me with the same thing Scientology did, but in a different guise. He said, well, and first of all, the goal there was to end the cycle of birth and death,
Right.
which at the time I thought was a good idea. Today I think, what the hell was I thinking? Why would I want to do that? You know, but that was the program. That was non-duality as I understood it.
Mm.
He gave me the same ultimatum that you either leave your wife,
Wow.
okay, or you're not going to make it. He didn't say I had to leave the organization, but I wasn't going to make it if I didn't leave my wife. So again, I was faced with this dilemma. And I realized that, yes, I wanted to be enlightened, but I also wanted to remain with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those didn't fit. So I just had to live with that paradox with, irreconcilable as it seemed. I was able to live with that. But I went down years at that point of this sort of self-negating. I'm not the body, so I started to let my body go. I didn't exercise and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
My identity as a fireman and all of the occupations that I had, that I wasn't that, I wasn't this, I was nothing. It was, netty kind of. But
Mm-hmm.
so I had some beautiful moments in my involvement with that guru and in that organization. I had some really high moments of peace and clarity and all those wonderful things that you can uh, get in touch with, uh, you know, within non-dual practices and meditation. I meditated every 3 hours for 15 minutes if I could. Uh, it never produced much, but I did it. But really, I started to retreat into a sort of a cave. Okay, my holy cave. I even went to India. I went to Ramana Maharshi's ashram. I spent a month there, uh, hoping I would come home enlightened. I did not. Uh, I, I I had some realizations there that I think brought me to a more harsh reality, but perhaps more grounded regarding enlightenment and whatnot. I did come away from there thinking there is no meaning to life, and that haunted me for a lot of years. I think I still fall victim to it somewhat, but I think there is meaning to life, and I think we give it meaning, much like Course in Miracles says. Uh, so I find that a more comfortable position, that I can create the meaning and the purpose and give life that meaning and purpose.
Right.
Whether it's inherently there or not, I'm not so sure.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, any rate, so I had departed into a cave and disconnected from most everything that I had done prior: diving, spearfishing, fishing, hiking, a lot of things. They weren't important if they didn't serve the quest for enlightenment. Well, I guess I gave up on enlightenment somewhere down the line and got away from it. I went through some other programs with other teachers and whatnot, but I left that guru and essentially I was heartbroken, disappointed, and free. So that was real conflicting attitudes and viewpoints, but it was quite freeing to leave. It was freeing to leave Scientology as well, which was kind of an oppressive organization in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of good information and techniques in Scientology. I must add that back in, but as an organization, they were pretty psychotic, I think, unfortunately. So all the good of Scientology is buried under all the negative aspects of Scientology. Same thing with the guru and non-duality, I think. If you get if you get too dogmatic about this stuff, I think you miss the essence of at least what they're trying to convey or what's intended. Um, so I floundered around there. in a few things, did some Byron Katie stuff, did another teacher group, which got more into a psychological processing thing, which I enjoyed very much.
Mm-hmm.
I continued along that vein, learning different modalities, embodied processing and a number of others, but I found a way to uh, get to the root of some of my issues and clear those up. In other words, to go back, uh, take the data that was stored, much of it is trauma, both mostly mental and generational and oh, I can't think of the term, essentially conditioning.
Yeah.
Uh, and was able to get into those things and begin to, in working with other people one-on-one, exchanging these processes, I was able to clear and reclassify a lot of data that I had
Mm-hmm.
and get a nice clear viewpoint of life, more integrative. And I think that's been the saving grace. Much of that, much of those teachings uh, questioned non-duality
Hmm.
and the validity of this dissociative aspect that one can extract from those teachings.
Hmm.
I always leave the door open to perhaps I didn't fully understand, or those are my interpretations, but nonetheless, they were dissociative, uh, the way I took them, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started finding more and more teachings that seemed to want to integrate life, integrate my emotions, my experiences into life, and bring me back to life.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not going to mention one of the big steps in that was with another group, another facilitation type process, but I've since departed from that group as well. But it did it did give life back to me in the sense that I no longer wanted to depart. I didn't want to leave my wife. I didn't want to leave my family, society. I had gotten it uh, quite experientially that all of my seeking, all of it, was because I wanted to get away from things that I didn't like in life.
Right.
And there were tons of them, tons of them. Still are today, but now I'm willing to face them head on. Now I'm willing to accept them, embody them, experience them, ruminate if I have to, trouble over them if I have to, but certainly I'm willing to be there with them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a different experience. That brings me back to life, and I start to now experience and enjoy the pleasurable side of life
Hmm.
and have developed gratitude that was never a strong suit for me. Gratitude, I could have the greenest grass ever and something on the other side of the fence. Just, the green grass is nice, but what about that? So it was always moving on to more or better or different. So I never learned a lot of gratitude, and that is developing for me now, an appreciation and understanding and openness and wow, all those good things. And a great deal of that has come out of my association with Tim Freak. Um, I kind of feel like Tim's philosophy, which, I'm evaluating it, I'm practicing in it and looking at it, but it's like the polishing of a stone. It's giving me understanding for the things that I'm finding since I left the non-dual and dissociative processes. So Tim's suppositions make sense. They also seem to coincide a great deal with some of the other philosophical things I've investigated and behavioral things that I've investigated. Work of John Vervaeke, Bernardo Kastrup, and individuals that are so much more educated than I, but bring so much to the analysis of what is life about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so while I'm very much into Tim's philosophy and very much into the individual concept, um, I've been dug in on philosophies before, Catholicism, Scientology, the guru. So I go, well, if I could be wrong then, I can be wrong today.
Mm-hmm.
So just be open enough to move on if you see red flags. Don't deny yourself, your values, etc. Just be willing to be open. So that's where I'm at, and I think it's a pretty beautiful place to be at. It's not miraculous,
Mm.
but it's given me so much more, and it's given me life. It's given life back to me, and a
Mm.
willingness to be in life. And now I'm thinking, if I could end the cycle of birth and death, would I? I would not. Why? I
Mm.
might be a little terrified of what I'm coming back with next time, but
Right.
uh, if it gets me to where I am today and maybe beyond, I'm willing to go. I'm willing to try it again. Um, I will say I have a lot of experience in recounting what you could consider to be past lives.
Mm.
There was a great deal of that in Scientology. I was a Dianetic auditor, and we went past life almost instantly
Mm.
in processing someone. Almost immediately, you work your way back on these traumatic chains, and you end up in apparently another lifetime. Now, um, I'm back to the point. I used to discount that as, well, maybe it wasn't really a past life. Maybe it was me being able to tap into the informational field, Akashic records, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
and recount a past life or an event that might not have been mine, but there's a lesson in it for me, or there's impact in it that it's had on my life. Because of Tim's work now, I'm starting to believe that perhaps the soul has developed the ability to return.
Mm.
Okay. And I find that intriguing. I'm not taking it to the bank, but it's sounding much more possible. So
Mm.
when you combine that with my experience of numerous apparent past lives,
Mm.
I think it's entirely possible, and I find it interesting. So that's kind of where I'm at today. I feel it's in a pretty open place, and I don't regret non-duality. I am delighted that I came through it. I'm delighted that I took that look at perennial wisdom,
Yeah.
tried to make it work, and that's also in my nature. Whatever my current philosophical viewpoint is, I dig in and I try to make it work.
Yeah.
I think I'm better now at seeing red flags than I was in the past, perhaps, but and so I've come to a place where I'm kind of open to possibility. There's a lot of things out there that raise my eyebrows, like I don't know, but I'm willing to look and listen, and I think it's clarifying more things, but making me realize also there's a lot I don't know. There's a
Mhm.
great deal of possibility as to who and what we really are. But I think one thing that's important to me is I am here now in this state, whatever that is,
Mhm.
um, and I can improve my experience, um, perhaps in some areas, but this is it. This is the cards that I've been dealt this time around. This is
Mhm.
my Jonas.
Yeah.
I honor it. I can work on it, but I also enjoy it. And that's it. I don't know if that was too short or too long,
No,
but
I think it was incredible and it flowed really well. And yeah, I just, since you ended on honoring Jonas, I just wanted to also honor the Jonas and
well, thank you.
celebrate you and your
Well,
rebirth in a way, it sounds like. Um,
yeah, it's true.
but yeah, so thank you for sharing all that. Would it be okay if I ask a few questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. You might have seen me jotting a few things down. I hope it wasn't distracting, but I thought that I would the first question I wanted to ask was just because you mentioned something called the unividual philosophy of Tim.
Right.
And would you be willing to just very quickly say what that is, how you understand that?
Well, as I understand that, it's an individual discovering their unity with all things, essentially, with the universe, if you will. So as I understand it, and as I embrace it, it allows me to be a unique part of the everything, of the all, of the universe. I got very into oneness, by the way, in later years, more recent years.
Mhm.
Became somewhat of a oneness freak, but Tim freak. uh, actually clarified oneness for me and put it in a perspective uh, that I think was more integrative. You can take oneness and disassociate with oneness.
Mm-hmm.
This is a more integrated oneness, this individual concept that we are unique individuals expressing the universe as us.
Mm-hmm.
No perfection intended here. This is it. This is the Joe aspect of the universe.
Mm.
Yet I am part of the all, and that's becoming very real to me,
Yeah.
and that's becoming a almost a constant meditative viewpoint.
Mm.
I'm not always there, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I can always go there. And that's what Tim calls up, by the way. That's his individual perspective, or yeah, individual perspective, basically, or individual processing.
Right.
So my big question for, not for Tim, so to speak, but if there's any validity to Tim's philosophy, and I think there is, how do I live my life? How
Right.
do I live my life as a vital part of the universe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a contributing part of the universe. Now, that's a viewpoint I did not have in the past.
Right. Right.
I was more a scar on the universe that had to be
Exactly.
healed,
That had to be
So
cut out or something.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
what I love so much about that is just how it shifts so dramatically from the type of non-duality, which I think I've heard Tim kind of describe that view of oneness as oneness with a hole in it, because the idea is that in order to experience oneness, you have to disappear.
Yeah,
As what the individual philosophy, which there's other traditions that talk about this, but this is the unique name that he's given to his version of it.
right.
That oneness includes you in it. So I like that
Mhm.
idea of individuals becoming recognizing their unity with others and with the universe, but as an individual. And
Absolutely.
I've certainly seen that shift radically help people come back to life. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to then note something, because I think it's interesting when you had said something like, I'm not sure if, you know, his philosophy is the truth or not, but you're open to it. It kind of reminded me of what you'd said earlier, where, you were kind of questioning whether meaning is inherent in the universe or if it's something that we create, um, and can live by, like, kind of intentionally create. And I think you and I have talked a little bit about this too, and it goes back to dogma. And I think what, at least where I've come to, and I think maybe you have to a certain extent, and would love to hear your view on that, is coming back to choice, which you kind of touched on, is something about, rather than necessarily diving into a philosophy or a new paradigm or worldview because you're A, thinking that it's the absolute unquestionable truth, or B, because you want it to be that for the certainty,
Yeah, right.
that moving into kind of more of an attitude where it's like, is it compelling for you? Is it, how does it make you feel? What does it add to your life? Is it something that, what are the qualities that it brings to your life? And then sort of, choosing to see reality through that lens, because you like it, because it benefits you in the ways that you want your way of relating to the world to do that. So that, yeah, I guess I would ask, like, do you feel like that's somewhat of the attitude that you're taking now, where you can kind of release the need or the belief that, like, well, this is the ultimate truth, or it needs to be the ultimate truth?
Well, I don't feel any need that it needs to be the ultimate truth. I
Mhm.
think, as Tim says, it's more trustworthy.
Mm.
But I will say, the litmus test for me is, what does it produce? What does it produce for me?
Mhm.
Scientology produced a great deal of conflict with people that didn't hold those views or value those views.
Yeah.
So it's very tumultuous. Even my time with the guru, over 9, 10 years, whatever it was, maybe longer, same thing, up and down, bliss problems. Tim's, I keep saying Tim's, but that's kind of my philosophy because I've embraced it. I've
Yeah.
embraced it, not as truth, but as something to be tested out. And I
Mm-hmm.
have to tell you, it brings me joy. It's brought me results.
Mm.
It's brought me peace. It's brought wisdom to the forefront, joy most certainly. When I meditate with the group, of course, I've had great times meditating with a lot of people through the years, but um, it just seems in this ICU, which is the International Community of Individuals, Tim's online group. When we go to meditate, it's instantaneous for me. I just go boom right up into this beautiful space, but it's not disassociative. That's what I want to make that point. So long answer to your question, yes, it's brought me joy. It's brought me a great deal of joy to my life. It's brought a great deal of understanding to my life and an increased ability to deal with life's ups and downs,
Yeah.
with the good and the bad.
Right.
You know,
And sort
so yeah, it works. And I don't seem to have the conflicts.
of,
It's not it's not created a situation where my philosophical viewpoint of life is going head to head with other viewpoints.
yeah.
Instead, it's created an understanding, empathy, compassion for other viewpoints, etc. So
Yeah.
that's a plus to me.
Incredible. I wonder if you'd be open to answering this next question, and it's okay
Surely.
if you don't want to. But so I think you know a little bit about my work and projects, and that I, connect with a lot of people that are suffering a lot because they've gotten into kind of new age non-duality and ego death, ego dissolution paths that are teaching you that, the only way out of suffering, and of course also to like the ultimate truth, is the kind of permanent dissolution of your sense of self and everything that comes along with that. And a lot of the people who are drawn to it, of course, are people that are going through immense suffering, and they're really kind of falling for, this kind of radical alternative esoteric approach to easing that suffering, and really kind of escaping that or getting this kind of relief from it. But then, people finding that it may provide some of that relief, but then also, some of the things that you said, that it feels totally incompatible with their kind of interrelational life and relationships, and staying motivated and engaged in the world and participating in life fully, and also disassociation, depersonalization, all of these things. What might you say to, I'm just going to take an example to, I a big percentage of the people I connect with are very young. They're young,
Hmm.
19 to 25. And so I wonder, because I know that you said that growing up, you struggled, with, let's say, I don't know if you would describe it as sort of like depression, but
Oh
maybe
yeah, definitely depression.
mental health issues, and just some kinds of suffering, maybe existential. Like, what would you say to one of those people who is going through intense suffering that they are desperate for relief from, and are coming across these very alluring messages from, non-dual teachers, neo-advaita teachers, that are saying, hey, really the only way to get free from that is to follow these teachings on dissolving, the one who's suffering, if you will, and taking on that kind of self negation path. Is there anything that you might want to say to those people?
Well, I think it's the wrong way to go, but I do have to say this. As much as you hear people say, "Oh, that's spiritual bypassing,"
Mm-hmm.
well, spiritual bypassing can beat the hell out of some of the other options.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from a nervous system regulation standpoint,
Yeah.
it can be beneficial,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have wins. You can disconnect from the pain and the suffering,
Right.
but you're not handling the cause.
Right.
So I think traveling the dissociative path, whether it's non-duality or any other methodology, is a mistake. It's an avoidance. You can also avoid taking drugs, becoming a workaholic, all the addictive aspects, but none of that is getting to the root of the problem. So it's kind of a easy to say, but not easy to do, is they need to find a way to deal with the roots of the problem and then approach life from a clearer view, if possible. And I think falling into dogma and hope and faith is a great thing, but there's no guarantee of truth or veracity in every hopeful thing.
Yeah.
So I think they need to find some methodology to regulate their nervous systems, get to the root causes of their difficulties, rather than try to find it in some utopian viewpoint. We have to live life. It's not all going to be good.
Yeah.
There's going to be joy. There's going to be suffering. But I think some of the religious philosophies just are missing the mark. They're not taking care of the cause. They're promising us utopia, but you're not getting at what's keeping you from utopia now, so to speak. At least utopian periods, if you will, relief. So I think that's the problem. So, and I'm not promoting all mental health treatments. Some are quite expensive, but there are methodologies out there that are not as expensive. Some that can be done one-on-one with friends and peers and whatnot. That can get you to a point where you can get a clearer view of life, and then you can evaluate perhaps the path you're taking or you're leaning towards.
Right.
Most of the paths I was associated and drawn to were unifying paths, moving us toward a more cohesive group, peaceful collectives, if you will. They all seem to have that common root, but they all didn't produce that common result.
Okay.
So I guess I don't really have a good answer for them other than step back and take a look and see if it's working or not.
I think that's a great answer, because what I'm kind of pulling out from that is one, kind of maybe not to be so hasty and diving in head first, maybe the way that we did based on the promises, utopian promises, to be more discerning about it. And also, I like what you brought up about how these type of like escapist spiritual paths can be seen as sort of another form of avoidance coping mechanisms. And of course, I think we both have a lot of empathy for people who do go for these paths, because we did. And, there were some ways that it did offer some kinds of temporary relief. But yeah, so I think it's a great point to encourage people to consider the ways in which it is just a kind of another form of avoidance coping mechanism. And a related question that I think is also pretty relevant to your journey is another place that people experience a lot of suffering is when they've gone down these pathways, and perhaps in addition to offering feelings of relief and freedom in some senses, it's also caused great losses to their humanity and to their functioning and their health and well-being, dissociation, personalization, memory issues, nihilism, alienation, all of those things. And they're really starting to question this pathway, but they're met often with sort of that Enlightenment narrative that, sorry, it's too late, you can't go back. And that if you do re-embrace selfhood and all of that, that you're, just kind of slipping back into the ego delusion. So, just keep going. Is there something you would maybe say to that?
Well, I left God as a young Catholic. I left him in the dust. It hurt. It was scary. I left Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, and all of those promises in the dust. It hurt. It was scary. I left the guru. It hurt. It was scary. I thought, that's it. I'm done. Right. But guess what? I'm not done, So my curiosity about life and my interest about life helped me to realize that there are multiple aspects to my Jonas, to who I appear as.
Mm-hmm.
And even to the point that I call myself jokingly to friends, the village named Joe. There's a lot of personalities here. There's a lot of archetypes that seem to be in play and whatnot.
Yeah.
When you start to understand that uh, and be more willing to embrace what you appear to be, I
Mm.
think you begin to find out that you're actually quite a lot.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You're not this little decrepit creature that you think you might be, the golem, you know.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. There's a lot more here,
Yeah.
good, bad, and otherwise.
Yeah.
There's sort of a composite existence. And as you start to explore that, I think it's freeing. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, one thing I failed to mention in my story is I actually left my wife and my family with the intent of never coming back.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yep. I disconnected. I was done. I was going full blown for the Enlightenment. I had made the decision. I was happy with it. Um, didn't work out for a couple of reasons. My mother-in-law was passing away, and I figured, oh, I need to take my wife up to see her, and blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
Long story short, it was at that point that I realized the both and nature of my predicament. And that is, I wanted to be enlightened
Yeah.
and I wanted to stay in this relationship. And when I finally got that the two were somehow in opposition, but I was willing to embrace them both, I came back home. I didn't disconnect. And I think if I had done so, God knows where I would have ended up, but I'm so glad I stayed.
I'm glad
I
you.
think this life is realer, it's better, it's more integrative and more enjoyable, most certainly. So um, don't I guess don't hang your don't hang on to one way, one method, one path.
Mhm.
Look, be open is the best thing I can say. Make sure that if you see red flags, that you investigate the red flags.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a great deal of truth in what you're dealing with, but it's not working for you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you're right. It just means you need to take a look and see why it's not working for you.
That's a great
I
point.
don't think I was allowing myself to take that look in the past too many times.
That's a really good point about the health of something. To
Yeah,
really question, is this healthy? Is it
yeah,
making, it may be making you feel good in some ways, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily healthy. Or,
right.
it may be very compelling, but if it's not healthy, then, you know, there's, I think, a real benefit to, considering, a different path or worldview that is healthy and offers, benefits to you. So,
Another key point that I came to realize for me was that resonance, that sense that you resonate with something.
yeah,
Okay, and I've been there dozens of times. It's no guarantee of truth. It is not. You're just resonating for whatever reason.
oh, that's a good
Okay.
point.
It doesn't mean what you're resonating with is truth or ultimate truth or going to work forever.
Yeah.
No, you've had a nice moment of coming together with something.
Mm,
Enjoy that and then leave it, let it go if it has to go. That doesn't mean this is the
yeah.
path. So all of those beautiful meditations and those feelings of oneness, God, I love them all. I didn't necessarily get there following a path that was true. I
Yeah.
just had those experiences and they were wonderful.
That's such a good
Um,
point. The
yeah,
connection between having a positive sort of mystical experience from the teachings, and because of that, kind of linking that to the assumption that it must be true because it felt good.
exactly. I did two trips in the early 70s on mescaline and peyote, and I literally disconnected, it seemed, from everything. One was actually an out of body experience again as well, where I thought I had all the answers to life's ills. It was just so beautiful. Toward the end, by the way, the trips up were not so pleasant necessarily. Um, now I forgot the point I was going to make about that. Oh, well, they were great experiences
Mm.
of wholeness and completeness, but they don't last. You can't stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to get back to that and try and find ways to get back to that, perhaps. And of course, non-duality has a similar promise, and a lot of things do.
Yes.
But you can't chase that carrot. I think that's a fallacy.
Yeah.
You don't want to be on that high trip all the time. No,
Right.
no, no, no.
Right. There's a, I don't, I came to a realization that a lot of those sort of states that these pathways kind of suggest you should be in always are not necessarily healthy to be in always in terms of functioning and relating and all those things. So
And you can't be there always. Come on, you know what I mean? You got to take the garbage out. I used to love that about the Buddhist viewpoint. They still got to chop wood and carry water and all this. Of
right.
course,
Yeah.
Uh, but there can be a cohesive underlying reality that you carry through life, and that's where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I owe that to a lot of things, but I certainly owe that to analyzing Tim Freak's work and seeing where he's coming from. He's at least it seems to me today that he's got one of the most logical uh, propositions I've heard, uh, and uh, and it brings me joy, and it brings me that sort of underlying sense of being attached to everything,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Attached. Interesting, right? Because
yeah,
enlightenment talks so much
yeah,
about dissolving your attachments, but you've come
yeah,
to,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. Um,
So.
I think maybe this would be something good to end on, because I've been considering this a lot, is kind of a going from these sort of paths of self-abandonment to um, self-compassion. And I was wondering, to what extent has self-compassion played a role in your kind of re-embracing Joe?
Well, I had none. I was brutal on myself, brutal. I still tend toward that, but I have learned self-compassion. I really have. You
Mhm.
can't accept your Jonas or Jessica-ness without some self-compassion.
Yeah.
But I tend to be the type that neglects myself for others. I tend to be that helper type,
Yeah.
uh, So I've got to look at that as a tendency,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and one of many tendencies that you might have to acknowledge. And once you realize that, then that story never has quite the grip on you that it might have had, you
Mm.
know. So that has allowed me to be compassionate for myself and willing. Uh, I have to say one thing that the greatest thing I ever did was get involved in philosophical approaches that encouraged embodiment of feelings and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the advice I would give to the young people that we spoke of,
Yeah.
is pursue things that help you to embody your responses to life. And there's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
And that works. That works. And that's very valuable. So that rather than ignoring pain and suffering, you embrace it. I had a realization recently in one of these sessions of the symbol of the yin and yang, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where they meet and all in that nice curvature. I always viewed that as a that meeting point as a place of contention, of war, of battle,
Yeah.
rather than the light and the dark actually embracing at that point.
Yeah.
That's a different view on good and bad and all of the opposites.
Definitely.
So where they meet is not a war or a battle. It's a place of of embracing both. It's the both and uh, your name, right? So just that little realization was like, oh my God, do I fight all this evil in the world
Yeah.
for the good, or do I try and embrace and try and be at that place where both have a space in this world? I'm more there than I've ever been. So
And that seems much closer to wholeness than trying to simply
absolutely,
transcend or exclude one polarity of a pair of opposites that sounds like you've come to see are
exactly.
actually interdependent.
Yep, yeah,
So
definitely.
that's great. Well, Joe, I feel like we had a pretty great conversation so far. I know we might be getting past our time limit, but I just wanted to see if there's anything else you wanted to say that would make it feel more complete, or if you feel pretty good.
Well, I feel good. I have to tell you, it's enabled me to go up, if you will, to really go for those positive things without rejecting the negative, with realizing that my path has just been my path. I'm, from here, I'm glad I took it,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with everything I've experienced. And because if it got me to here, if it got me to this moment
Mm-hmm.
of integration, hey, all good, right?
Yeah.
All good. And I'm ready to move forward, whatever life's going to get, put forth for me. So
That's super inspiring. And I was just going to say, I'm losing my train of thought, but let's see if I can get it back. um, it's coming. It's coming. I really like your attitude around, not regretting some of these things that you might relate to as pitfalls, or, going down like the self-annihilation pathway, because it did propel you forward to something that you may not have gotten to had you not, fallen into
certainly,
those pitfalls. So I think that that's also very encouraging, um, kind of guidance for people, when people can feel like, really angry with themselves, or feeling trapped in sort of regret for going down some of those paths that became unhealthy, that, moving on from them can be really going forward to something much better. And that, again, yeah, that it's brought you to, or can bring you to, these much much better places.
sure. Well, I've always hated the phrase that everything happens for good. I've hated that. My wife
Yep.
uses it all the
Same,
time.
same.
And but I have to tell you that if you're willing to go back and take a look at what happened,
Yes,
to delve into it, so you can make some good out of it. You can
exactly.
learn from it. You can move on from it. But avoiding it doesn't work.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah. You can
not at all.
make choices that make it, in retrospect, an important stepping stone to something better. But yes, it does
Absolutely.
also
Yeah.
depend on the choices and what we do choose to take from it. And so, yeah, thank you, Joe. Your story,
Thank you.
as I said, is even more inspiring now that I've heard all of it. And I
I'm
just,
not so impressed, but I can appreciate where you're coming
well,
from.
I am. And
All
I
right, thank you.
really appreciate you being so open to sharing and offering all of your words of wisdom. And yeah, it's been really nice.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to contribute to your cause. I think you're doing some great work, some necessary work. So thank you for that.
Will definitely help people. So, all
Great.
right.